This is Neutral Ice.
Carpet Sidney Crosby, the golden goal! Flyers score! Oh, does it! He scores again, and what a goal! Wow!
Buffalo's best hockey show every Monday night.
Golden goal! Sweden wins the World Junior Hockey Championship! Scores! Gio Sakic scores! James Gio! What a save by Robin Miller!
Now, here are your hosts, Nick Lippa and Jack Sullivan.
Somebody find a fire hydrant! Put this guy out!
On Buffalo's original alternative, 91.3 FM WBNY.
You're listening to Neutral Ice on 91.3 FM WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative. It's 1982, brought to you by Buffalo State College student activity fee. Joined in studio by Derek Kramer.
Yup.
How's it going? And we'll have Nick Lippa on the phone at 9:35. We'll also have Brayton calling in about 15 minutes here. Get their takes on developmental camp. We'll get Nick's opinion on the Patrick Sharp trade as well as the things going on at free agency. But first, we're going to go right into developmental camp. Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart, a lot of other prospects, Nick Baptiste, Justin Bailey, Jason Kasdorf for one. A lot of guys standing out. Derek, in your opinion, who was some big standouts?
A couple big standouts for me. I loved the line of Carrier, Fasching, and Reinhart. I thought those three were playing fantastic. They dominated the game. It made it almost imbalanced and unfair.
Yeah, that line looked incredible. And the prospects game, if anyone saw that, 17,115 people, by the way. Incredible. Sam really became the Sam Reinhart show. He looks just jacked, in my opinion. Like, last year when you saw him, he was a 6'1", lengthy kid. Really, Tim Murray talked about him going over the last season, going into the weight room after games, after practices, after classes and such. So he's really put the work in, and that's really a good thing it's a tough thing to do with that grueling junior schedule. And really, when you look at the team this year, he really looks like he's ready for a top six role, in my opinion. A little more so than Eichel, which might be a bold thing to say, considering Eichel has more experience against pro players in that tournament, in the World Championships. So, I mean, really, when you look at it, Eichel is more of a highly thought of prospect. But Reinhardt's got an extra year on him. He's got that 9 games of NHL experience that he had last year. He got his little taste. So I really think the only thing he had to work on was his skating and his physicality. Looks like he's really worked on both. He was flying in camp. One of the best skaters at camp, I would say. Eichel's on a different level, I think. But Reinhardt's skating has definitely improved. His vision is just as good as it's always been. Shot looks like it's gotten a little bit better. But really, the things he had to work on, he really went back and he did. I mean, I was very impressed. He looks jacked to me.
Yeah, and it's not that he just filled out his body. It is muscle. I mean, he's going to be able to withstand the punishment now, at the very least at the AHL level. Murray expects him to be in the NHL and be able to withstand that punishment.
Murray's talking like he expects him to be in a top 6 role, too.
And I expect that actually as well, based on how he played in Friday's scrimmage.
Yeah, watching him throughout the week, even in the scrimmage as well, he was, to me, the best player, and that includes Eichel in the conversation. That can be a little bit that Reinhardt's had a taste of pro leagues, and he's a year older. So, I mean, maybe that gives him a bit of an advantage over Eichel and the fact that he's done this before in developmental camp. So I'm not saying Reinhardt's going to be better than Eichel going forward. But in this camp, and to start the season, I would expect Reinhardt to be more of an impact player just by the way he looked in camp. You could not take him off the puck. When he was controlling the puck, he looked fast too. Yeah. Like a lot of things you saw last year was when he got challenged and he was about to make a play, he would stop moving his feet. This year he was moving his feet.
Killer mentality.
Yeah, while making passes, while taking shots, he was doing everything on the go. And I think that really helped it's going to help his confidence that he can skate with the guys in the league now and that he's not going to get pushed around really as well. So, Reinhardt, I think, is your MVP of the camp. Eichel, of course, too, we saw, especially in the 3-on-3 tournament.
Yep.
I know in the scrimmage he didn't do much, so a lot of people that just saw him on Friday, by the way, shout out to the Sabre fans, by the way, 17,115 fans at a scrimmage.
Jesus. And we were discussing this earlier on the Buffalo Blitz, the fact that there were so many people at the scrimmage, and this is a scrimmage of prospects. You're maybe seeing 5 of these guys at most pull on a Sabres uniform this year, and 17,000 people paid to watch this game.
Yeah, these are paid tickets.
All of these are paid tickets.
You're not getting that many fans in a lot of NHL cities if it's free.
Yeah.
And here you're getting paid fans that want to come see mostly Jack Eichel, but really to them what they really saw was the Sam Reinhart show.
Yeah, they wanted the Jack Eichel show. They expected the Jack Eichel show. They expected Eichel to just be able to go off on everyone. But what they got instead, as you said, was the Sam Reinhart show. 2 goals, 1 assist, a filthy shootout goal. I mean, you're talking Sam Reinhart. He came to play. He came with something to prove.
The thing I don't want people to be discouraged about Eichel, though, is while he didn't really stand out a lot in Friday's game,
shifts.
Very short shifts, which was very evident that he was almost always the first guy coming off the ice on his line, and he was playing on a line with Baptiste and Rodriguez.
Yeah, and you would see Baptiste and Rodriguez stay on for like another 30 seconds. So it wasn't just like he was taking short shifts. He was taking half shifts almost.
Yeah, and I want people to not be discouraged, though, because I still think he played well.
Also,
he didn't play spectacular, but I think he did a good job with puck possession in the fact that he was very hard to take off the puck.
He also displayed that explosion, that skating ability.
Skating-wise. He got himself into some trouble where I think he was trying to make it more of an entertainment value than maybe get as much out of it for himself that he could have. Because a lot of times he was trying to make passes through 2 or 3 guys. He was trying to wow the fans too much, where I think he could have played a simpler game, could have just drove to the net more, done simpler plays, probably would have had a better game. And I think he was trying to wow the crowd.
Yeah, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with that with a prospect scrimmage, especially when you know that a vast majority of the 17,000 people that show up are mostly because of you. I mean, go ahead. Try to give them something that they want to see. I don't mind that at all. I think that's encourageable by Jack Eichel that he was able to do that. He was willing to try that with the short shifts that he was given. It made for some entertaining hockey every time he touched the puck because everyone was leaning forward in their seats. Other
standouts in the tournament, I'm going to go through. One of them really led Team Navy in the 3-on-3 tournament to a victory was Evan Rodriguez, especially in the 3-on-3 tournament. Looked super quick, looked very fast. He's a smaller guy, but skating-wise, I thought he was maybe the best guy in the entire camp. I'm going to leave Eichel out of that conversation because everyone knows Eichel's just like another world-level skater.
Yes.
But Rodriguez, I think, was the next fastest guy out there. Looked really good with his wrist shot. He's gonna need some time in Rochester. I think he needs to bulk up a little bit, considering the height's not gonna be an advantage for him. So he's gonna have to do better with the strength. But his hockey sense, I'll say, a lot of people say that about Reinhart. I see that there. I see the speed there. I see a good shot. I feel like he can definitely be. I heard I forgot. So one of the writers compared his situation to kind of Brian Flynn, where he kind of comes out of nowhere as an undrafted guy, and he's still, not becoming a top 6 player.
He's not going to play a pivotal role, but he's going to play a role going forward.
And he's going to be an NHL regular, which I can see that from Rodriguez. This year, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the first or second call-up.
Yes. I thought that Rodriguez struggled on Friday. I feel like he had a rough go of it. Mm-hmm. But then he scored that nice shootout goal, deking out Jonas Johansson beautifully, and it's not easy to deke out a 6'4" goalie. So, it was a great goal to end the night, actually, that helped win their shootout for them, and then to go in Sunday and just make himself known, saying, "Hey, it wasn't just all Jack Eichel. I got things I can show."
Yeah, a part of that on Friday too was Eichel didn't have the greatest game, so that could have been part of it. Also, Baptiste is more of a shooter. He's not really a guy that's going to set you up.
Yep.
So, I mean, and Eichel's a guy that's going to control the puck, so maybe Rodriguez found himself a little lost on that line, where Eichel's the guy who wants to control the puck, Baptiste is the guy who wants to shoot it. Rodriguez is like, well, what am I supposed to do here? Because I'm not a guy that can really go to the front of the net, use my size to clear space for other guys. Mm-hmm. So I feel like he kind of got lost in that role on that line. But I'm not discouraged for him either about the future. Another guy that I really liked over the tournament was a goalie, Jason Kasdorf.
Jason Kasdorf
played phenomenal.
This was a little unexpected, honestly. Like, a lot of people didn't think that he was going to be that guy, and I cannot believe how well he did.
Yeah, and a lot of goalies that you saw coming into camp, like Jonas Johansson, and people talk about Linus Ullmark while he's not at the camp because of hip surgery. He's another highly thought of goalie that you could perceivably put into your future lineups. And then you've got Cal Peterson, who's setting records in the NCAA, and you've got probably 4 or 5 goalies. You still have Makarov too, and Lewin. You've got 4 or 5 goalie prospects that you think of before you get to Jason Kasdorf, and he really came in to this camp. And I really believe not by far, but he clearly to me was the best goalie in the camp. So, and we're joined on the line now by Brayton Wilson. Brayton, we're just talking about standouts from the developmental camp. I just brought up Rodriguez and Jason Kasdorf. Who are some other guys you really felt were big standouts in this developmental camp?
Well, the one guy that I really liked was, by the way, how are you guys doing this evening?
I'm doing terrific.
Very good, very good. Anyways, the one guy that stood out to me, and he stood out last year, was Max Willman, the forward from Brown University. And, I mean, it was quite a difference because you know how Sam Reinhart came into this year's development camp, and he looked bigger, he looked faster, he looked stronger.
He looked ripped.
Well, he was arguably the best prospect that was at the development camp this year. But Max Willman this year, he came in the same way, bigger, stronger. This year at Brown, he really didn't do that well. He only had 3 points in 30 games, but the thing was is that Max Willman was mostly playing a third or fourth line role while he was at Brown and really didn't get all the greatest of opportunities. Well, he comes into this year's development camp after having a stellar development camp last year, and he just carries on from what he was doing last year. I mean, he was making some really nice plays. He was handling the puck very well. In the scrimmage, he got hit by Josh Chapman. He was the one that got decked at center ice, and he got right back up, and he was right back in the play before the fight happened. And then in the 3-on-3 scrimmage, he was dominant on a team with Justin Bailey. I can't remember who else was on the team, but I mean the Royal team with him and Bailey, that was a fun team to watch because there was only 4 of them. But Max Willman, I want to say he had like 4 or 5 good shootout attempts. And he scored on I think he scored on 4 out of the 5 or 3 out of the 4. And the one that he did was a Forsberg deep move that he did, and it was just an absolute brilliant goal. He looked very good with the puck. He was controlling it very well. He was protecting it well with his body. He looked very well. I was impressed with him again. He was one guy that I was kind of looking forward to watching again, and he just looked very, very good.
5th round pick in 2014. For those who don't know about Max Willman, so
he was the first overall. He was the first pick in the 4th round by the Sabres that year.
Yep. So he's not like some undrafted camp invitee. This is a guy that's been drafted, and the Sabres are going to expect to maybe be a part of the organization going forward here.
Mm-hmm. He's gonna take some time to develop. He's definitely going to take that time in Brown to play it out there. He's probably going to go the full rest of 3 years that he has now at Brown. I think that his speed is very underrated, and I think that his offensive skill set is just completely underrated. Again, he only had 3 points, but he was playing in a limited role in Brown. And I think that this year they're expected to have him in a much more important role with the team. So I have a very good feeling that Max Willman's going to have a turnaround year for his sophomore year at Brown. And I think that if I was Tim Murray, I would be very high on Max Willman within the next couple of years and seeing how much more he can develop and how much more he can produce while he's at Brown.
Brayton, we talked about earlier the big names at the camp being Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart, and the fact that really Reinhart took over the scrimmage, it seemed like, and he also played phenomenal in the 3-on-3 tournament. Really, camp as a whole all week. Now, I'm not discouraged on Eichel. I think he was quiet in the Friday scrimmage, but I thought in the week as a whole, Eichel was phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
But would it be crazy to think right now that maybe starting the season, Sam Reinhart might be more ready for a top 6 role than Jack Eichel might be?
It's not crazy at all. I was kind of projecting the line earlier today, trying to figure out where guys would probably slot in. I had Reinhart on the second line right wing with Zemgus Jurgensen and Matt Molson. I think Eichel fits the third line right now just because he's only 18. I mean, he's had some experience playing against some professionals in other countries and in the NHL with playing at the World Championships. But, the NHL is a whole different game than the World Championships are. So I think that Eichel's going to start out on the third line, and I had him paired up with Brian Giunta and I believe Jamie McGinn as well. I think that would be perfect for him because McGinn and Giunta are both very experienced veterans. He can learn a whole bunch from Brian Giunta, being the captain and being so experienced as Giunta is. And Jamie McGinn even, too. Jamie McGinn is, I can't remember how old he is, but he's been in the league for quite some time. He's 27?
26.
26. Okay. But, still, Jamie McGinn's a familiar name in the NHL. He's been there for quite some time. So, he can learn a good thing or two from both of them. And I think Sam Reinhart, with the way that he was playing at development camp, I think clearly he was the best prospect at development camp this entire week. I think there was no doubt about that. He just looked so much stronger on his feet. He's built. There's no arguing that he is built. He's built up his physical game more, and his skill set is just as good as he was playing when he was in Kootenay, even better. But I think that for sure Sam Reinhart is probably more set to play on a top six forward or top two line position, whether it's center or wing. He's definitely more ready than Eichel now, but give it halfway through the year, I'm sure that there's going to be some sort of injury, some sort of, maybe one of the top two centers is not playing as well, and Jack Eichel's just going to move up. And if Jack Eichel can take advantage of that, then look out, because Eichel's the type of player that he's blue collar. He's gonna take the negative stuff and he's gonna use that to build it into positive things in his game and also for the Sabres. And I think that come halfway through the year, I would not be surprised at all if you see Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart possibly on the same line together.
Yeah, and Eichel, to me, is a guy more so than Reinhart was last year that can start on a third-line role because, when you look at Eichel, if he's not scoring, he's still got the skating and the physicality that he can keep up in this league, whereas Reinhart, if he wasn't producing offensively, he doesn't have the skating, or he was last year very small getting pushed around, so he's not a guy really you could throw into a role on a third line and he could produce.
Yeah, just remember last year, Sam Reinhart was definitely not physically ready for the NHL. His mindset and his skill was probably NHL ready, but his physicality, he was just too small. He was too small. He was getting pushed off the puck. He wasn't getting the ice time because he was that small, and it was right of Tim Murray to send him back to Kootenay after the 9 games that he got in the NHL. But it was good for Reinhart. He got the NHL experience for the first, early stretch of the season. It benefited him greatly. He knew what to expect, and then he went back to Kootenay, and he worked on his physical size. He worked on his skill set even more. And, and this year, and this at the development camp, he was, showing off his skill set, his hockey sense very well. And then even in, the on-ice testing skills, he was showing that he's ready for the NHL with skating-wise. So I think Reinhart definitely starts the year in Buffalo. If he has to get sent back to Rochester at some point, I'm sure that, he's going to take that, and he's going to accept it, and he'll be, if he gets sent back to Rochester, he won't stay down in Rochester long. He'll work on whatever he's got to work on. And I guarantee you Sam Reinhart's at least going to get the range of 55 to 60 games in the NHL this season. Yeah. I'm fully confident in that.
I could also see a scenario, too, where maybe Eichel or Reinhart are playing so well that they feel comfortable moving O'Reilly back to wing.
Mm-hmm. That might work.
That could work, too.
That might work. But the problem with moving O'Reilly back to wing is that, that would only happen if somebody was hurt, and if Eichel was playing so well that, he would bump him up to first line. But then again, what happens if O'Reilly's playing first line left wing or right wing, and Eichel's playing center? What are you going to do, bump Ennis or Evander Kane down to the second line? I'm sure that, both Evander Kane and Tyler Ennis are very skilled players, and I really don't think they're going to be bumped down a line unless, something's not working with chemistry or something like that. But I think that both Evander Kane and Tyler Ennis are first-line wingers on this team. It's possible. You never know what's going to happen for sure. But I think that, I think Eichel starts the year at third-line center, and maybe he gets the chance to be a first-line center eventually down the line. But, I think that this year is more of a building year. I think that's what the Sabres have to focus on with Eichel, is more of a building year. Same with Sam Reinhart. It's just a building year. Get him time in the NHL, and maybe come next year, maybe both Reinhart and Eichel will be first-line pairing wingers together. Who knows what's going to happen?
Going back to developmental camp, who were some of the how did you think the goaltenders looked as a whole?
I really liked Jason Kasdorf.
Mm-hmm.
Kasdorf looked big in the net. I think Kasdorf's only 6'3", but I mean he looked like he was playing 6'4", 6'5", just a couple inches bigger. And that's all you can ask for of your goaltender. I mean, if you got a goaltender that's somewhat smaller, I mean, because we've got Jonas Johansson, who's 6'4", and even Cal Peterson looked pretty good too. And Cal Peterson's only 6'1". I like the goaltending. I think it's promising. Are any of those goaltenders going to play in the NHL within the next 3 years? Probably not. I mean, maybe a guy like Kasdorf, when he comes out of college this year, can right after this year can come into Rochester or even Buffalo and maybe make a statement. Who knows? But I think that the goaltending is promising. Cal Peterson's definitely one kid that's going to, take his time. He's going to work on his game in Notre Dame. I mean, he's only sophomore, so he's going to take another year or two, or three even, to develop his game even further. And even the goaltender that, both goaltenders that were invited, Lotz and Belanger. I liked Belanger's game a lot. Belanger's a bigger goaltender. He looks fundamentally sound positional wise, and even Lotz was pretty good too. Lotz opened himself up a lot to make himself look bigger. I think Lotz, I don't even know if he was 6 foot. I think he was only 5'10" or 5'11".
Small.
But
he was more. You could see he was like kind of like a spider monkey. He's just jumping all over the place using his athleticism.
But I mean, Lotz even looked very impressive. I mean, all the goaltenders made some really, really nice plays, really nice saves. Looked pretty good at prospect camp. But again, I mean, once training camp comes around, that's when the people that stood out in prospect camp, when they come to the training camp for the NHL, that's when we can really say, okay, is this guy really ready, or is this guy going to need another year or two? What's going to exactly happen? I think that Kasdorf was obviously the best goaltender at this prospect camp. I really like Jonas Johansson. I really like Cal Peterson. The goaltending future is very bright for the Buffalo Sabres.
Kasdorf, by the way, 6'4" he's listed at, and he was drafted in 2011. So you would think he's gonna make his pro debut next year, I would bet.
Yes. Yeah, you would think that. I mean, he's definitely gonna. I mean, he's gonna be a senior RPI. I think that once that's done, he's gonna take at least another year in Rochester, maybe two.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kasdorf in that scrimmage in particular, I think was fantastic.
He had a shutout in the scrimmage.
Scrimmage, and the crowd loved his play because he was making some high quality saves.
He got a little bit of an ovation too when he went off the ice in the middle of the second period for Jonas Johansson too.
Yeah, he got an ovation. He played very well. I thought he gave up one bad rebound, but he stopped that afterward. I thought Kasdorf in that Friday scrimmage, he played very, very well.
All right, Brayton, thank you for joining us. I know you got a busy schedule, so we'll let you go here. I want to thank you for joining us here on Neutral Ice.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you for having me, and have a good rest of your show.
Yep, you
right,
too.
Thank you, Brayton.
All right, thank you, guys.
You're welcome. So, we're going to take a short break here on Neutral Ice. When we come back, hopefully going to have Nick Lippa on the line. We'll see if we can get connected with him. You're listening to 91.3 FM WBNY, Buffalo's original turf since 1982. Brought to you by the Buffalo State College Student Activity Fee. You're listening to Neutral Ice on 91.3 FM WBNY, brought in here by the old Versus theme song. Brings back fond memories.
I love this theme song.
Ryan Miller, Vesna days, and Doc Emmerich. Well, we are joined on the line by one Nick Lippa. Nick, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. What's going on, guys?
We're doing well. We're just coming off developmental camp here, so we got a lot of fan excitement going around right now.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man, I'll tell you right now, guys, I'm in Delaware right now. It is beautiful here. Weather is absolutely great. And it's kind of a weird place to be, but I have been following the Sabres nonstop ever since I got here. Because everything that's been happening, whether it's talks about Oduya or development camp, Jack Eichel not going to World Juniors, there's a lot to be excited about in July. And the Buffalo community feels the same way, obviously, with the 17,000 plus showing for a hockey scrimmage. By the way, to all those out there, there's so many people online. Buffalo always gets a lot of crap from a lot of people from the online forums, but just want to throw out there as a little sting to Edmonton. They didn't even get half of that for the Connor McDavid showing in Edmonton. I think that speaks volumes that Buffalo is a huge hockey market and wonderful place. I just want to start off with that. So, any of our listeners out there, go Buffalo. Way to keep it going there. And Murray, I think, called it like the 8th Canadian market, I think it was. Mm-hmm. But he said he may be bigger than some of the other Canadian markets. And I think he's absolutely right, which is absolutely the thing to think about. Buffalo really has the numbers at this point to back up that they are basically hockey town.
Yeah, I saw a stat too that the 17,100 and change that were at the scrimmage was better than the average attendance of 11 NHL teams from last season.
That's crazy. That's a third of the NHL.
Solar system is so humongous big, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely insane. And again, something that we're just going to see more and more of really, really. I don't know how you guys felt about the prospects game, but me personally, listening in and reading the Twitter blow up, really excited because we already know anybody who has qualms about Jack Eichel maybe not doing as much as they wanted him to do or get the big goal. He was on a far inferior team. Anybody who looked at that lineup knowing would have seen that the prospects were loaded on the other side. It was good to see Sam Reinhart do as well as he did. And for me, surprisingly, it was good to see a guy like William Carrier play really well as well playing with him.
That top line was ridiculous.
For the Amherst moving forward. All that you got to walk away with is that the Amherst are going to be very good next year. And there is going to be a winning environment. The Sabres came out and said they want to create. I think it's there. You look at guys like Justin Bailey. You look at guys
Nick Baptiste,
like Carrier. Reinhardt will be in the NHL next year. There is really, really, really good talent on this team, and there's a reason why the Sabres is the number one prospect pool. The competition level right now is sky high, and again, taking that and transitioning, I would not be surprised with our depth to see a trade made if things for Oduya don't pan out coming up soon.
Yeah, before we get into that sort of thing, as that would be the perfect segue, I just had to add that the fun fact that Joe and I were talking about before we started the show today, Jack Eichel was drafted first for the development camp teams, but then the blue team was allowed to get, what was it,
the next four picks.
The next 4 picks, which showed the imbalance that was created from Carrier, Reinhart, and Hudson Fasching. That line played fantastic. And then Jake McCabe,
who was by far the best defenseman in the camp.
And looked like he didn't even belong. He didn't even deserve to be there at that point. He at that scrimmage, he just looked like he was far and away the best player on the ice at times.
Nick, have you been able to get a vantage point of what people in Rochester really felt of McCabe's season last year with the Amherst?
What people in Rochester have been thinking?
Yeah.
People in Rochester, I mean, they've really been a little more distant than Buffalo. And what they're feeling, it's just less extreme. I gotta say, when you're in Buffalo, and I'm somebody who's grown up in Rochester and I've seen it all. I mean, I felt like when I get for all our listeners, oh my God, this baby! I don't want to throw a baby out a window, but
please don't throw babies.
That was inappropriate. They're family friendly. So I went from Buffalo to Rochester, and I move around a lot for all our listeners out there. And my hometown is Rochester and Chi-Line, New York. But I'm in Buffalo for the majority of the year, about 9 months of the year. When I went back to Rochester after all this was done with the NHL draft, I felt like I was catching everybody up to an extent about what's going on, like normally would be for hockey. You talk about hockey, and you think about a lot of markets. It's the off season for most years. Where it was like, oh, who did? Oh, we got Sam Reinhart. Oh, that's cool. Oh, we got Grigorenko. Oh, we got Wine. Oh, that's cool. And in addition to that was, yeah, you had some fans. You had some fans where I got some friends, and they are absolutely going insane. You had a lot of hardcore, but the general market of people where they're just catching on. They're just like, they're hearing, it's like they're hearing whispers. They're like, who's this Jack Eichel guy? What's going on? It's basically where Buffalo was in October last year. Because Buffalo is nice. You go in and you say Jack Eichel, everybody in Buffalo seems to know. I legitimately believe that if the Sabres make a Stanley Cup final in the next 5 years, that more than 50% of the market will be watching the Stanley Cup final. Buffalo is so hockey crazed. This whole community in Buffalo is maybe more supportive of any NHL team I think that I've ever seen in my entire life in the country of America right now, and one of the most dedicated fan bases I've seen for any team in any sport. I mean, you're talking about Green Bay Packer level of commitment right now. Guys, they had to open up the third level for a prospect scrimmage. More than half of these guys will not probably be in the NHL. Absolute absurdity. Buffalo is in a league of its own right now when it comes for support of teams right now, and I think that really goes to show it, because coming back to Rochester is kind of like kicking those road, where it's like, okay, the hockey fans, all of them really know what's going on because they understood what was going on. Hey, the general public, your Joe Schmo, who's a Bills fan that follows the Sabres every once in a while, he's like, who's this Jack Eichel kid? Buffalo, that just doesn't happen. Everybody knows. Everybody seems to know that there's just something going on because they've been hearing about it since October.
Nick, I want to quick transition off the Sabres for a bit and then kind of swing back around to them. But I wanted to ask you, considering you always seem to be up to date on the Stars, Dallas Stars, since you have friends that are Stars fans, what your opinion was of the Patrick Sharp trade?
Oh, Dallas won hands down for me. And everybody, because the only thing that Blackhawks fans are holding together is like, well, Trevor Dallas is a decent defenseman, so you're telling me you get a 30-plus defenseman who essentially is the equivalent in my eyes to Johnny Oduya. He's just a better offensive player, but he is completely incapable on the defensive side many times. And the Dallas Stars, basically, they do not take on too much, like as much cap as I thought they would have. The Blackhawks don't clear as much cap as I thought they would have. And the Blackhawks kind of in the same situation, but I think they're with a worse player. If you look at it, again, for any of those who believe in advanced statistics, which that's a thing, that do exist, the world is round. Trevor Daley had the worst game I've seen the past 5 years any player's ever had in an NHL game. He single-handedly accounted for a critical loss late in the year against the St. Louis Blues last year, where his Corsi was astronomically bad. You would have had to think he would have been trying to make these moves to create those kind of numbers. Trevor Daley is not a really good player. I don't know why people think he can play top four in the NHL. He's like a worse version of Mike Green. So he's not really good on defense, and his offensive skill set not as good as Mike Green, really. I call me being very harsh, but I'm not a fan of Trevor Daley. I wouldn't want him anywhere near my team, and because he is just a negative aspect. He doesn't help lead the win. Now, I'm sure he'll look good because it's coming up. He does have some decent offensive skill sets, but again, he'd be a fourth line forward at that point. Don't hurt your team on defense. Dallas just got more veteran depth on the forwards, and people are going, "What are you doing with your defense?" And I'm going, if you look at Dallas's prospect pool, they are very, very deep. And they would rather get rid of an older veteran who's not going to be there for the years. And honestly, again, it hurts a few more. I can tell you right now, Dallas, people forget this. Trevor Daley got injured. Dallas went on a winning streak. Trevor Daley came back and they started going back to their mediocre ways. People forget that, but it happened 3 quarters into the season. It was amazing. It was like clockwork. It was like he comes out of the lineup and the team clicks better. The Dallas Stars are better off without Trevor Daley. Patrick Sharp is a very nice veteran addition from a team that just won a Stanley Cup. He's been productive all of his NHL career. Not going to be the same guy he was 3 years ago, not even 2 years ago, but he's still going to be a guy who can fill in and do a lot of good work, especially a team that has Sagan, Ben, and Spezza on it. Dallas is in great position here. There are a lot of people in Dallas are questioning about that 2-goalie system with Yemi and Lettman, the $10 million. Yes, everybody's talking about that, but you know what? If they have the cap space and they bring in, I think Dallas is just like Buffalo. And the more and more I look at it, Jim Mill is just like Tim Murray. I don't have to go out for free agency and make the big signing. I can go out and make a trade. Murray's the same way. He'd rather make a trade than go out and do free agency. Mill's the same way. I think both of those teams are in the market. for another left shut-handed defenseman potentially. And I think that if Bill's going to do it, he's either going to sit on his hands and say, it's not worth the value I have to give for my long-term of my franchise, and I'll wait, or he'll go out and he'll work the trade that he's going to make. I think Dallas is in a very good position. People question this. I think this helps Dallas get more wins. I think a move like this, plus Miami being able to help out Lennon. Remember, Dallas didn't have a goalie. Was the backup goalie to win last year. At least not through the first 7/8 of the season. I forget in the last 8 games if one of them pulled it out. But they didn't have a backup goalie to win. Try telling me that's going to happen this year with Miami and Lennon. It's not. It's a 1A, 1B situation. That addition is going to guarantee they're going to get more points. Sharp is going to help them get more points. Anybody who watched Dallas Stars hockey should feel really good about this trade. The rest of the NHL, maybe some of those analyst guys didn't watch enough of the Stars games. I can tell you right now, they shouldn't be as high on Dallas as they are. I think Chicago could have gotten more in that situation for that. Yeah, same thing kind of with the Saad deal too. With not only getting $6 million in Columbus, I'm scratching my head here in Chicago. They're really, really benefiting off having guys like Kane and Taze there. I'm not as high on the Blackhawks offseason move this year. I usually am, but there's still more offseason to go. And one thing that you got to realize too, you got to be patient. These GMs have a plan and they're trying to go somewhere with it. People are freaking out about Murray hasn't gotten the left shot defenseman that's top 4 yet. It's like, well, he's got the rest of Boston to do. Was it not last year? Garth still pulled off trades for Letty and Boychuk. Not at the beginning of the free agency period, but near the end of all of this happening later, waiting for teams to realize that no other way they're going to free up cap. There's a couple of teams that have some cap problems still. Chicago's one of them. You're going to see them moving more people, and that's going to affect where some players go. So I like that where Dallas went right now. But the free agency, we're only, in my opinion, we're not at the end. We're only halfway through, really, the offseason right now, because I think there's going to be another trade or two that's going to be a decent proportion. I think Buffalo and Dallas, one of those teams is going to be involved in one of those trades.
With the trade that we just brought up, it really seems like now Chicago will not re-sign Johnny Oduya, and kind of transitioning back into the Sabres. How do you feel about Johnny Oduya as a possible signing for the Sabres?
It really depends on the contract. If I look at Oduya really as a 4-5 guy, obviously you look at his stats. He played on a team that had Duncan Keith, a team that had Brent Seabrook. You have a bunch of that going on. So obviously his stats are slightly inflated, but he's not terrible either. You get both sides of the extreme for people with Oduya as a god. And I'll tell you right now, I've been reading a lot of the Blackhawks forums, and a lot of the fans and even some of the writers, they really like Oduya a lot. A guy who came in. He's just kind of this guy who seems to work. He's not that statistically superior guy, but a guy that everybody seems to feel, from what I've been reading in Chicago, just makes their team better. But I think that it's not going to be as like a 3-4 guy. I think it's going to be, or even not a 2, absolutely not a 2, but it's going to be more of a 4 or 5 guy, a guy who could play the second guy on the second pairing, or the guy, one of the first guys on the third pairing. I think he really fits well right in the middle there. I think he's better than the 6th guy. But I like him as a 4 or 5 guy. So it really depends on the contract. My question to you is, that's the Blackhawks too. The Blackhawks aren't going to pay Oduya $4 million to play on their third line. They're not going to pay him $4 million play third line and then half second line. Sabres really need more so for defensemen. So if you sign Oduya to a $4 million contract over 2 years, $8.5 million over 2 years, I think that's fine because they can afford that over the next 2 years. They can be willing to pay. Like Mazzaros accepted Oduya, the better defenseman. If they go 3 years and they go like $13 million, I think that's pushing it. I think it's a big stretch. And Murray's going to be a little more cap stricken to do a couple other things. However, they'll get their guy to be 4 or 5. I do think if I'm Murray, I'm lowballing Oduya, saying you can sign with us or go somewhere else and have them overpay you. And I'd be keying in on Brent Seabrook. Brent Seabrook's a guy that Chicago, if you look at the cap situation, I said Boychuk and I said Letty. Seabrook is a guy who could really come at a cheaper price, come closer to camp, or just a price at all, be on the table, because the Blackhawks will realize we have to figure out what we're doing next year. The Blackhawks have so many players up to sign next year, and they do not have the cap room to do it. I really think that getting a guy like Seabrook is in the cards, and I think a team like Dallas and a team like Buffalo could make a move. And remember, Dan Bilesma, he's not afraid, even if that's not the case, doesn't work out, he's not afraid to say, I'm going to use 4 right-handed defensemen and 2 left-handers. He said that in the press conference earlier this year. He doesn't have to have the 3 left-handers, too. So there's other options out there as well that will go in with that. But in all honesty, I'll be straight. If I'm a GM, I'm sitting there and I'm going, Chicago's going to have to do something serious because they didn't clear the cap they should have with the Sharp trade. It means another trade has to come. And I think that the logical thing that could happen is if Chicago gets value for Seabrook and then re-signs a guy like Oduya to play on the second-line defenseman, and they get a bunch of prospects to help make up for the cap situation in the future while they have the star talent to help hopefully sustain success, that would be my prerogative. That would be my mindset if I'm a Chicago Blackhawks general manager, because you know you can get the prospects. Dallas and Buffalo are both teams that could do that for you. So I think they made their trade with Dallas, with that going on, but if Seabrook comes on the market, you know there's going to be teams that are going to be interested. I think Buffalo would have more to offer and would be able to re-sign Seabrook right now with where their salary cap is.
Yeah, and Seabrook's a $5.8 million cap hit, so that would immediately get Chicago out of the bind that they've been in. And if you look at it from a Sabres standpoint, I feel like we have a guy that could really entice Chicago. If you look at a guy like Johan Larsson, where he's still kind of a prospect, but he's ready to jump to the NHL level and help a team, and he's not going to cost you really anything. So I feel like that's a guy that Chicago could really like in a trade. You package him with a pick or two, and I think you could really get Seabrook in here.
And that's what I've been banging my head about. I've been banging my head over, who Chicago. I've been doing this for the past 3 months. Chicago's got problems. I'm going to get rid of it. I came to the conclusion, as well as a lot of us, Patrick Sharp was the way to do it. They took on too much cap for Patrick Sharp. They got to cut off the arm at this point. Just getting rid of Oduya is not going to do it. I think the camp at Oduya knows it too. And I think they're kind of forcing Chicago to Oduya. They came out to the other decision by tomorrow morning. But again, Daly coming in kind of gives them flexibility in Chicago for where they want to go. So with Daly being there, they don't have to have Oduya, and they could get maybe a younger defenseman in the deal that's cheaper or another guy. Think about it too. The Blackhawks, get rid of a guy like Seabrook, bring on some prospects you're ready. A guy like Larson, potentially a pick in the future, and then maybe somebody who's going to be coming up, maybe a guy like that, something like that. I'm talking about a player of those kind of calibers, whether you like them or not. I'm not saying it has to be that specific player. It makes a lot of sense for Chicago that they're still going to compete if they get rid of Seabrook. There's no doubt that. Absolutely no doubt. But they have to almost reload with the cap situation right now. And I don't think they're going to be able to extend Seabrook. So the realistic expectation of this right now is you can either trade Seabrook or get one more year of him. And Chicago's going to be competing for the playoffs and the Cup next year. It's not like he's going to be trade deadline bait at all. It's not going to be that kind of situation, I would imagine. I would imagine that you'll get more value for his youth right now if you trade him now, whether it's Buffalo or another team. However, I think Buffalo has quite a bit to offer with their need and what could come and to help out, like you said, Larson. There could be some really cool stuff happening. But again, if I'm the Buffalo Sabres, that's the player I'm looking at. I'm not looking at Oduya. Oduya is not valued right now. Seabrook would be. He's last year's Boychuk at this point. And I don't think I'm out of line of saying that, but that's literally almost the same situation. Team that's cap stricken. Here's a defender that we're not going to be able to re-sign. And we get value. I think Chicago's going to get more value for a player like Seabrook if they do trade him. But you're not hearing any rumors about it yet, but I'm just talking logically here. Look at it. Is there anybody else on the Blackhawks roster you see them getting rid of that really would clear up cap? No, they'd have to get rid of, just not sign multiple players. That's a big risk if you lose all that cap. And then you're one injury away of being not a Stanley Cup team, but a team that's 7-8. That's tough. They have a chance to reload for depth. I think the Blackhawks will do it, and I think Seabrook's the next guy to go.
Do you think there's any thought that they might trade Hossa? He's 36, and he's a $5.2 million cap hit for the next 6 years.
That would be so spicy because Hossa is so productive. He really is. He's a guy who – what's the difference between the Blackhawks and Anaheim?
It's Hossa.
Hossa, right?
When you look at Anaheim's third best forward, I mean, Kessler just got there, so it's hard to say that he's not that. But Chicago's had Hossa for a while now, and he really has been the X factor why they've got 3 Stanley Cups.
Hossa's the guy who gets you over the hump offensively. He's the X factor kind of guy. And Seabrook's essential, but Seabrook's the guy who's going to get you the most value right now. I think in a trade, Hossa would help another team out, but I think you lose too much offense at that point. And you still don't. You have to extend Seabrook still. So you're going to extend Seabrook, but it's going to have to be one guy. Seabrook has to be extended. You need to invigorate. You have to put your roster. You have to give it more juice. at that point coming up through the system. I'm not saying Chicago doesn't have it, but I'm saying that there are guys that are ready to go this year on the team. Similar to the Sabres. Like a guy, like you said, Larson, who could do it this year and be used and be cheap on the contract and he'd still be one of the best teams in the West. For me, that makes the most sense. But you're right; it would have to be a guy like Hossa, or it would have to be
Maybe
a guy
Bickle?
like Seabrook.
Yeah, I was going to say
Seabrook's
Brian
for a long
Bickle is
time
a...
contract. But logically speaking, Sharp made the most sense to go. The next step for the Blackhawks, if they're planning on clearing cap, it's going to be Seabrook. And I think he's in. I'm going to keep saying it until it happens. He's this year's Boychuk. You have to do something radical otherwise. He's the only time I say, okay, we move this one guy. If you're trying to get fancy at the GM, it's a lot harder because you got to account for making multiple moves at this point if you're Chicago, if you're not going to get rid of Seabrook.
How much is Bickle's cap hit?
$4 million.
Oh, my goodness. I would say Bickle might be the next one to go.
The only problem, Bickle has a no-trade clause.
Oh,
Yeah,
why?
yeah, and that's a great
Why?
point. I was reading a lot of the forums, and a lot of people were of the opinion of, can you please trade Bickle for a bag of pucks? Anything. Just get rid of them. Have somebody take them. Send them to Arizona. Have them trade us for a 7th-round draft pick next year.
Yeah, that's an awful
If it means
contract.
that we can keep Oduya. And
Trade
then
him for
bring
John
on
Scott.
Yeah, but that's
Oh,
the
God.
real deal, though. Let's say you get rid of Bickle. There's a really good chance that you're going to sign a guy like Oduya to bring him back. He's going to replace Bickle's $4 million. That would be what you have to do, but you'd have to move Bickle to bring on Oduya and do that. I think, logically speaking, again, Seabrook is the guy because Seabrook's just more money. It's an extra $1 billion+ on that salary cap hit. And if you're talking, and you're going to have to extend Seabrook, and you know Seabrook's going to want probably a little bit more money. So let's be real. Seabrook makes the most sense. Anybody else that really goes, temporary concern, but you know the Blackhawks are going to be addressing the situation again a month from now, or 2 months from now, or a year from now. And if they're doing it a year from now, he's not on the team. He's gone. You didn't have him. That's just the reality of the situation.
And you know, if Seabrook hits free agency, he's going to want a pay raise, and Chicago's not going to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's not at all to get to that point. The best chance they have right now is getting value right now because if he was traded to a team, he might be able to give him the concession now that has cap space. So there's a team like Arizona who wants just that, but they're not going to, but they're tanking. Let's just be real. Arizona just signed John Scott. I don't know what they got. They got John Scott, and they got,
Chris Pronger.
Yeah, they got the contract of Chris Pronger.
I mean, they're full on tank mode right now. They're tanklicious right now. They've got the all-time tank team together again. It's like the anti-reunion of Hall and Oates right now happening in Arizona. They're together again, singing the same old story of the Sabres phrases right now in Arizona. That desert, or soon to be the Las Vegas Coyotes. I'm looking at it right now. I always say that. Seabrook's got to go. We've been talking about this for a while. Seabrook's got to go, in my opinion. He is the one that makes the most sense from the cap situation. Chicago is just going to keep putting Band-Aids over a exposed artery right now. That's what's happening right now in the cap situation until they handle paper.
I want to transition back over to the Sabres a little bit. When you're looking at their defensive core, you mentioned Seabrook as a possible guy that they could trade for. Oduya is a guy that they could potentially sign in free agency. Let's say that they don't make any more moves. Would you be comfortable with Jake McCabe being in your starting six to start the season?
Well, where are you putting him? Are you putting him second pairing defenseman?
I would make him, at this point, he looks like he would be your third pairing left defenseman.
I wouldn't have a giant problem. I think McCabe's going to make the roster. Anybody who saw the prospect saw that McCabe was an NHL player for the prospect. You don't want to take too much of it, but it was almost unanimous that he was the best player on his ice. I mean, if Reinhart doesn't get the goal at the end, a lot of people, especially following tweet-wise, people were just like, McCabe is completely controlling this game. There's nothing anybody can do when he's on the ice.
Yeah, McCabe was like a +5 with 3 assists.
Which is scary to think. I mean, like, in all the progress, McCabe was very good. If McCabe started off in Rochester, it was only a matter of time, in my opinion, prospect camp, and what we've seen at the end of the year with McCabe progressing before he's going to get called up. Physics is going to be out the Sabres next year. McCabe is a guy who's not too far behind. And he's got to be happy if you're a Sabres fan that he's progressing as well as he has. He's definitely going to have a struggle. He's going to be different. He's an older prospect who's going to make his due through the system. McCabe is a third player. Yeah, I think that's good. Do you want him there to start the year? No. Go get out of that trip. Go help that team. You got to realize the Sabres need a defense. body not feel better about it. You don't. I was reading an article and they're talking about how you don't go from one of the worst teams of all time to be much improved competing for the playoffs. And I beg to disagree because it all depends on how you handle your off season. Because Evander Kane was on the team last year. Jack Eichel wasn't on the team last year. Tim Meyer wasn't on the team last year. Ryan O'Reilly wasn't on this team last year. Gianta and Kenneth are really the only players that were on this team last year legitimately. Paulino's going to be a third, fourth line guy on McKinney on the team last year. I think on defense, Bogosian, George, those guys were not healthy all year. George was off our first third of the year. Ristolainen is much better on the defensive end now. You have Bogosian, like I said. You have Physics coming up for Cave. Weber's going to be playing 6-7 months. Thank God. They need another defenseman to get to that improvement. But if they got a guy, let's pick up Alex Seabrook. Let's be real. You look at Ristolainen, Seabrook, Bogosian, Georges. You have a guy with Weber, Cave in the mix, and stuff like that. You feel pretty good about what the Sabres are doing. You feel pretty good that this team can go out and post at 75 points this year. Maybe even 80. And I think a defenseman will do that. And if you're going 6, that's almost a 30-point increase. That's crazy. I'd say the Sabres did so much this offseason, it would be dumb for you not to account that this team is going to be better at competing after the acquisition of a franchise goaltender, what they believe, Leonard, and a lot of those scouts do too. I think that they're looking at a very good time. And by the way, if we're talking about that goalie trade too, about Buffalo's prospects and things like that, Leonard is here to be by more scouts and more scout reports come out about the trade. More people think Leonard could be a top 10 goalie or a franchise goalie in the league. Very surprising to read. And more scouts, including apparently the Carolina Hurricanes, think a guy who a lot of people would find out Eddie Black, they think of him just as a backup when we went for what he went for. So there you go with the price, really. And what it costs a player like that, I think it just makes you feel better as a Sabres fan that Tim Murray really knows what he's doing. And he's not rushing to make any bad contracts. The Sabres weren't going to pay a 6-year, $5.5 million deal to Andrej Sekera, so his contract expires at least 35. Sabres have made one contract like that under Murray, and that was Molson. Molson's contract expired when he's 35. The Sabres can just handle that cap hit. He's a second-line production right now, and he'll be third-line production probably by the end of his contract. So they'll be able to handle that because he was here for the start of the tank, essentially. And he stayed through, and the Sabres can handle that because the majority of their contracts won't have to be signed to or paid for until he's gone at that point after he's 35 and he's due for pay increase. So you feel good with a guy like Molson on your team right now, being like second, third line with all the other people that are there. It's a good feeling if you're a Sabres fan. This team's going to be, realistically, anywhere from 20 to 35 points better next year. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but I really think that's true.
I want to transition to a different topic right now. Nick, I don't know if you've heard this news. I'm assuming you may have, but I'm just going to read this headline to you that's been just posted. Police. Ryan O'Reilly drunk drove his 1951 Chevy into a Tim Hortons.
Ryan O'Reilly did what?
Drunk drove his 1951 Chevy into a Tim Hortons. Did you hear about this?
In Middlesex,
Ontario. I did not hear about that. What's up with everybody driving into Tim Hortons? It happened near my house. Like 10 minutes, like an old lady in a t-shirt into a Tim Hortons.
Well, I don't want to spend.
Tim Hortons just getting attacked.
People really want their coffee.
Seriously, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it was reported by it was an AM station in Canada, somewhere in Ontario.
Yeah.
But O'Reilly was arrested last night for driving his 1951 Chevy pickup truck into a Tim Hortons, and he was, he was above the legal alcohol limit. So at most, he's facing a 1-year license suspension and a $1,000 fee. So I don't think.
We'll see what the NHL gives now. But
I doubt he gets any sort of discipline from the Sabres or the NHL.
No, I doubt so too after that big contract. But we'll see what he gets from that. I have to read more details, honestly. I haven't heard about it. I've been out and about today so far, but Ryan, if that's really the case, it's really not a good sign for Sabres fans with that. That's just you get a guy who statistically is a tremendous player in Ryan O'Reilly, and you get a absolutely terrific draft class, offseason, everything going on. It's not a really good start that you want to hear from that. And hopefully, you hope that he's okay, the people that were in Tim Hortons are okay, and you hope that he doesn't have a lot of personal problems. You hope that this is just a one-time incident where maybe it was just like a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't heard too much about him having past problems regarding that either.
No.
So I'd have to do more research into that too. Maybe there were problems that were like this in Colorado. That's why they were hesitant to give out a big contract. You gotta ask questions after it if they're true. But it's a wait and see. Don't want to rush to judgment on anything.
I'll give you more time to digest that. I know it's very fresh news. It just came out maybe less than an hour ago, but it's been very recent.
We were walking into the studio,
and it just kind of broke.
It broke.
It doesn't matter what report you're going to read now. You're still going to have to figure out other things too. And it's going to take more than anything. We've got to let time play out to see, because there's obviously going to be a statement from the Sabres in regards to that as well.
Kind of staying on O'Reilly, this is more on the ice than off the ice. I asked Brayton earlier in the show about, in my opinion, I believe Reinhart looks more ready to tackle a top 6 role than Jack Eichel does. So if you figure if they start the season with Reinhart on one of the wings of the top 2 lines, Eichel starts as the third-line center. You would hope that at some point in the season, Eichel's going to play his way, that you want to put him as one of your first 2-line centers. How do you feel about a scenario going down where Eichel plays his way and you have to move O'Reilly to wing?
Oh, I wouldn't have any problem with that, personally. I mean, it's just about what's going to make the Tulsa team win. That's all that really matters. You want the team to win. And if O'Reilly is going to have that's also why you signed O'Reilly for the money you did. Not only is he a wonderful defensive player, and in all honesty, his point production isn't like people like really rank only 17 goals. Like, look, guys, really, he's going to have his points. He's just going to be getting more assists than he is going to be goals. He's a guy who can do well on faceoffs, but he's a guy who can play on the wing anyway. That's the big perk of ROR there. Great defense. You can play him anywhere you want on the ice, and he can do pretty much everything. He's got an extreme amount of flexibility. So that's really good when you're dealing with a lot of these younger players who are really good at one thing but still learning how to do a couple of other things. And that's exactly why he's a perfect fit for the Sabres right now. Again, just hope that he's okay with everything else going on.
Yeah. How do you feel about Reinhart maybe being ready for a top 6 role over Eichel?
Reinhart is the real deal. I don't understand. Everybody's freaking out. You tanked last year. You can't keep him up more than 9 games. You're not going to win last year. What do you want? Leon Draisaitl, where he's got a year contract for the Sabres, don't have to pay him for 3 years. Same time as Jack Eichel. It allows you to let contracts like George's and most of those things expire while you go on and win in the future. This is very good from a management standpoint. Reinhart was always good. He's always had his head up. This allowed him to build his body up and not base in playing minutes instead of playing fourth line on Ted Nolan's team.
Oh, yeah.
Sam Reinhart was very good. Will was the reason why he went number 2, and it was basically a no-brainer number 2. It wasn't even close. If you talk about Buffalo, the only other thing you could really argue is Sam Bennett, who was a pure scorer. But if you didn't want a pure scorer, Sam Bennett's the best player in the draft as a forward last year. Sam Reinhart.
Yeah.
Reinhart's the real deal, and he's the smartest player on the ice at 20 years old right now. When he's coming into the ice, he's always in the right spot when you watch Reinhart. And if this weekend didn't show you it, where he's playing with William Carrier, who's probably going to be kind of an amateur player for life. Think about that for a second. An amateur player for life kind of deal. Reinhart really made him look like he could be on the top line with him in a place the way he played. He just played better than everybody, and he's only going to get better. Reinhart's the real deal. That's his fight number 2 overall. And 3-4 years from now, you'll be going, oh wow, Taze Kane, it'll be Reinhart Eichel. That's not crazy. You got Kane there as well. He's just a playmaker. You just get a lot of really smart people, a lot of really high hockey IQ players right now. The Buffalo Sabres in their youth. That's a really good feeling. And their high athleticism. Speaking of the second-round pick goal this year, that they got as well. Super high athleticism as well. Very interesting route for the Sabres. I'm interested to see how it pans out. If it pans out real well, I think you're going to see people copying what the Sabres have done. Especially when you look at guys like Evander Kane coming over, who's like the physical freak of hockey. Yeah, there's a lot to be good. I really like Sam Reinhart, and I think that he's going to be top 6 next year. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to be top 6. Just like Sam Bennett will be for Calgary at some point next year, and just like Aaron Ekblad, the top defenseman for Florida. Yeah. Last year's draft class had some really good players. and especially at the top. And you're going to start seeing it.
Yeah. I want to ask you both this question, Derek. I want your opinion on this, too, because I've kind of been tossing this question around my friends a little bit.
All right.
It's kind of a make-up scenario. If you had to trade one, would you trade Reinhart or Gergensen?
If I want to go first, I would probably say Gergensen. I love Gergensen in the kind of player he is. But Reinhart's a first-line production forward. Reinhart's going to give you production. He's going to get goals into that. Gergensen does some other things, but you just signed O'Reilly. However, I know where you're going with this because you're saying somewhere down the line somebody's going to have a contract, they're going to get paid, and you're going to have to let them go. And I'm talking about that too. But that's a while down. You have to worry about that for at least 3 years. They're going to be good. And you don't never know what's going to happen. Maybe Reinhart doesn't pan out as good as I'm thinking he is. Gergensen's a hell of a player and the pride of Latvia. I love that about him. I love that he was born in Latvia and Latvian things are happening. It's great for Buffalo. Especially that one game of the year where literally one section is just a group of Latvians. But Gergensen is a hell of a player. You don't want to get rid of Buffalo. That's really the answer. However, came down to a cap situation again. I want to put in perspective that Reinhart is the real deal. I don't want an overreaction to the prospects game. I just want the realistic expectation that Reinhart was the number 2 overall player selected in the NHL draft last year, and he's a hell of a player, a smart player. He's the real deal. You don't get rid of those players. Those are guys you want to hold on for your franchise.
Yeah, and for me to answer that question, I would trade Zemgus Girgensons.
That was the Latvian rap, by the way.
That was the Latvian rap of Zemgus Girgensons, and probably one of the best things I was ever introduced to.
Yeah.
It's a hypothetical, and that's not something you have to think about now because there's so many variables that are going to change over the next 3 years. But
you would get more for Reinhart, too.
Both players are absolutely amazing. Reinhart, though, I'm going to keep drilling some people's minds because they've been brainwashed by stupid people who said Reinhart's not as good. Reinhart's the real deal. He's so good, it's not even funny. His course, he's going to make you go, wow. I'm so glad he's on our team. And then Jack Nicklaus' course is going to make you go, wow, I'm so glad he's on his team. And you got Vander Kane, and you got guys like Bolson or O'Reilly. The top 6 for the Sabres is going to be really good for the next 5 years. Really, really good.
I mean, I watched.
You should feel really good if you're a Buffalo Sabres fan with that. Now, all you have to do is tell Murray to get that defense in check. And once the defense picks up, this team's going to be competing for serious things.
Yeah, I mean, Friday at that scrimmage, seeing Sam Reinhart play the way he did, I mean, seeing Reinhart, Fasching, and Carrier really just run roughshod over the rest of the prospects made me think of a future that, say Fasching and Carrier hit their ceiling, that's possibly line 2 of the future right there.
People don't see the future, too. Like, let's say you have a player like
Fasching
Fasching's going to be coming up at that point.
Fasching's a man. We've watched him grow before our very eyes, and I was very impressed with his play and very impressed with him in development camp. I thought that, Hudson Fasching is going to be a factor going forward for this team as a top 9 forward.
Physically, I think he was the most pro-ready it wasn't like Eichel and Reinhart.
Oh, my God, yeah. He was
I think it was Reinhart. I have to point out, I think it was McCabe. But
Yeah.
McCabe was
McCabe.
Yeah. McCabe was a
I can't say enough good things about McCabe. McCabe couldn't have done anything better for me this weekend.
Yeah.
He's created offense. He was a rock on defense. He was everything you wanted to be. If you wanted Jake McCabe to be a Buffalo Sabre next year, he was dominant. Now, pure domination. It's a prospect camp, but he came out of a prospect camp and looked like he was Ryan Suter. Just an absolute monster.
Yeah, I mean, McCabe was in a league of his own in that scrimmage, but I thought that Hudson Fasching was the guy to me that really stood out to me. Like you said, physically, the man looks like he is ready to go, and he's returning to Minnesota this year. I am excited for him when he comes in because I think he makes the Sabres right out of college when he goes pro.
What's great about that is that he'll get an entry-level contract, too, when he comes in, right?
Yeah, I don't think he spends any time in Rochester. I think he goes right to Buffalo.
No, and you're right. He no contract right now, so you've got full term.
Better.
Yeah.
I can't stress enough how good Tim Murray has put the Sabres financially in right now. It's brilliant when you look at it. Hudson Fasching is the guy who will be NHL ready at the beginning of his contract. That's the thing.
That's smart.
He's got to be able to come in and play third line minutes, most likely, what he's done. And he's taking a leadership role in Minnesota this year.
Yeah.
You got to feel good. You just have to feel good as a Sabres fan. Everything Murray's done is logical. I'm such a huge fan of how Murray has done things. Last part of the piece, though, I want to see what he does on defense upcoming this year, and it's really going to be a year-and-a-half process because I don't think Murray is going to overpay too much. It's going to hurt his team in the future. But if he's big money, I bet you it's a 2-year contract.
Yes.
And to speak to your point about Tim Murray and the financials, if you look at right now, the guys that he's going to have to re-sign 3 or 4 years down the road. If you look first, Gergensen and Ristolainen are RFAs at the end of the season, so just assuming that they get probably 2-year bridge contracts, then if you look, 2018-19 is the year that you're probably going to have to re-sign Jack Eichel, Zemgus Girgensson, Sam Reinhart, Rasmus Ristolainen. Those are the big 4 key guys, I think, for the future. If you look at that point, the only guys that will be under contract with the Sabres that we currently have are Ryan O'Reilly, Evander Kane, Matt Molson, Tyler Ennis.
Yeah.
And
Molson's contract expires
Bogosian.
the year after.
Yeah, and Bogosian is the one I'm missing. Bogosian.
But
too.
Molson's contract expires the year after.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're in a spot where basically you can, again, if need be, you can either buy it out if it was something that was really bad and you needed to make room. One of those guys probably won't be on the team at that point. But you know Risto's going to be there because of his first defenseman possibility. But, yeah, it's looking really good. And I love what Murray's done with this team because, again, guys like Hudson Bashing and Baptiste and other guys that could be on the Sabres or used to acquire players for a playoff run and push, there's a lot of chips. And if this is a game of poker right now, you're in the lead as far as the Sabres, as far as the entire game is concerned.
And you have all
and
these.
now you get your ace in the hole in Jack Eichel.
You have all these second-round prospects, too, in the system right now that not a lot of people are talking about because usually JT Compher and Brendan Lemieux were the highly thought-of guys that we picked in the second round. But after developmental camp, you see guys like Václav Karabachek and Eric Cornell, who, by the way, his shot is incredible. I saw him hit the post or score probably every single time that he took a shot. Skating looked like a huge issue, but his shot was phenomenal. Karabachek, amazing puck handler. Like,
yes.
I'm trying to think. Justin Bailey was dominant the entire
Justin Bailey
week.
was physical and able to put the puck in the net.
I was surprised how good Bailey's hands were.
Justin Bailey.
Yeah,
I
mean, he's
Justin
going
Bailey's the guy
Russian.
that I was following last year and seeing his progression, and I'm just so excited to see this guy what he's doing because he's gone from and there's one of the Buffalo writers wrote about it. They said boy to man, and it can't be any more clear about it. Justin Bailey's going to be so much fun to see him go for hockey. I think he's one of the guys that has a real shot at becoming a Buffalo Sabre. I think he's going to make an impression on the Amerks, I think, this year.
He might be a top 3 call-up, in my opinion, forwards-wise.
I've watched Bailey play. I watched him originally play for Kitchener and then for Sault Ste. Marie, and then also in this developmental camp. Nick, you'll get this immediately upon seeing him. His hands, you do not expect how good they are for the type of player he is. Because when you think of Bailey, a lot of the analysis you get on him is that he's a bigger guy. He kind of plays a two-way game, and he's going to out-muscle you, like that kind of game. If you watch him, his hands are on par with a lot of the other great stick handlers in the camp.
No, one of the things about Bailey that's misconstrued is that he can't have a little bit of finesse to his game. You want to know what makes the biggest Ben scary? Is their finesse. The thing that scared you about Tyler Myers as he skated up the ice was how light he seemed, not his skate, when he moved the puck around. And that was the kind of moments when you saw Myers go with that. You'd be like, wow, this is what puts him above everybody else. Bailey put on, again, and when you saw him in the prospect camp, an Ennis-like goal. That's what everybody was calling it, an Ennis-like goal. And it really, that's kind of the player that Bailey is. He has the ability to be that brooding, strong, out-muscle you kind of guy. But if you come at him and you want a body to body, he has the ability to play with the puck, make you look silly, and move it somewhere else. He's a guy I think that's really going to be a great player for a team looking to have high possession stats in the future because of his ability to use his muscle and the small amounts of finesse that he's able to utilize. I really, really like Justin Bailey.
The other second-round pick, I don't want to forget him because I've mentioned all the other ones, was Connor Hurley. If you watched him during the camp, kind of reminds me of almost like a lesser Sam Reinhart, where he doesn't have the greatest shot, but he does a lot of little things really good, and his passes are always right on the tape. So that's another guy. He's only played 1 year at Notre Dame, so he's still a few years away. But I mean, that, like you said, that's another guy that you can use as a trade piece if you want to make a run in the playoffs.
100%. Now Now I'm gonna be going in a second, but the last thing I want to throw out there, we have all these players we're talking about prospects. You can't possibly sign all of them, or not all of them like the Sabres, but you think like a couple of those guys are going to shine through with the amount of competition that the Sabres have. Sabres have 3 second-round draft picks next year.
Yep.
3 second-round draft picks next year.
Oh, no, 3 third-round picks.
Or 3 third round. Sorry,
Still.
1 second, 3 third, right?
Still, the point is made.
Still picks, lots of picks.
Oh, was it 3 second or 3 third?
2017 they have 2 seconds. So maybe they have 3 seconds over the next 2 years.
Yeah, 3 seconds over the next 2 years.
And
they have
4
3
thirds,
don't they, next year?
Yeah, they have over the next 2 years they have 3 second-round picks and 4 third-round picks.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot of
picks. Those are going to get moved.
It's a lot of picks.
What are the Sabres going to do? Either they're going to trade prospects they have now and they're going to use those picks to draft for the future,
or you could use
those picks and then develop their prospects. I think you're going to see a balance between both to help improve the team over the course of the next couple of off seasons.
Or we can just
really good stuff. I can't tell you how happy. I mean, if you were to tell me right now, I got Jack Eichel, I got Vander Kane, I have Ryan O'Reilly, I'm one defender away from essentially being a team that can compete really in the Eastern in my division, like a top 4 guy to get in there. And obviously they're going to have struggles because they're a young team. But as a franchise, then you said, by the way, you still have more picks than 25 other teams in the league. I would feel really good. They have picks right now like a team that's going to be rebuilding in a year or 2 from now. Except they're not. They're on the upswing from it. I think people forget that. This is going to be a team that's probably going to be finishing in the 10th, the 8th to 12th spot next year in the league as far as being outside the playoffs. But a big improvement from being the worst team in the league.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically.
Nick, we'll let you go because I know you got a busy schedule and you got to run. So I want to thank you for joining us, though.
Oh, that's great! Great to see you guys and be on. Can't wait to really can't wait for the Sabres season. I haven't seen this much excitement about hockey in July in a long time, just from anybody in the country at all. And this has been really unique. And I don't think there's any other area in the country besides Buffalo right now that's even remotely excited. It seems like the entire Buffalo community can't get enough. I mean, this alone is going to be causing Mike Harrington's probably getting more action with Buffalo News now than he ever has in July in his entire life. And I think it's great. This is so unique. But this is going to be a great feeling when the Sabres are winning because you see what's happening now and they're not even winning yet. Can you imagine what's going to happen when they win? That's the last thing I'm going to say. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for having me on Neutralized, guys. I'll be back on in the future.
All right, sounds good, Nick.
Have a good night, Nick. Yeah, I completely agree with the sentiment that once this team starts winning, this city's gonna explode.
The season opener is going to be bedlam.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're talking party in the plaza. They're probably gonna put a big screen on the rink in Harbor Center. Mm-hmm. Sit people down in there.
Just imagine those player introductions.
Oh my gosh!
Like last year, I mean,
building's gonna shake.
They're gonna have a new intro song and everything, which thank God because that intro song last year was just painful.
That was not the only thing that was painful about
the intros.
Season.
I mean, when you're announcing guys and you go to Andre Mazzaros and Mike Weber. Well, Mike Weber might still be in the player instructions, but there was no excitement last year.
Well, yeah,
and then like pregame
team was
stuff.
expected to be
this
bad.
year. When you get to a Vander Kane, people are gonna go crazy for him, and then Ryan O'Reilly, and then you're gonna get to some of the good players that have been here, like Tyler Ennis. Like, oh yeah, he's good.
Oh yeah, he's still here.
He's
awesome.
He's pretty good. I mean, you get the
he's fun.
Josh Georges. Like, oh yeah, he's a decent defenseman.
Oh yeah, we got Josh Georges. I forgot about that.
Cheer for him too. Like, I mean, how many players on this team do fans not like? Really, you're down to Mike Weber. But that's one guy. Last year, it would have been every guy. This team has not played
I'm really trying to think
enough
hard here.
where fans don't like a guy. Like, if you look maybe like 2010, when they announced like Tim Connolly, that's a guy fans did not like. Derek Roy had a lot of haters.
2 years ago, Drew Stafford.
But there was the team was just stale, and fans were just sick of. This team is fresh.
It's fresh.
We haven't grown
new.
to not like any of these players except for Weber, and even Weber in a reduced role. I mean, fans can get by without or can get by with him.
Yes,
honestly. And I mean, you know what? Another funny stat, by the way, that I saw. The Sabres. Do you remember the Sabres' last playoff overtime game-winning goal?
Can't say that I do.
I'll tell you this. Both the goal scorer and the primary assist are still on the team, that's just astounding to me. It was Game 5 against Philadelphia in 2011. It was a Tyler Ennis goal off a Mike Weber shot.
Oh, my
Rebound.
God. Mike Weber.
Mike Weber took the shot, rebound, Ennis put it away.
No way.
So the last Sabres playoff overtime game-winning goal was Ennis from Weber.
So there you go, people. We still have connections to the last time we were in the playoffs.
So hopefully they will also get a playoff game-winning goal this year, because then that would mean we make the playoffs.
I'm not ready to go ahead and say this year, but definitely
I'm
next
hoping,
year.
hoping.
Definitely next
And I mean, you've got Johan Larsson. Like, you forget about him, and like Gergensen becomes an afterthought with Eichel and Reinhart, which is insane because he was an all-star last year. He's like, I mean,
You say that word like it really threw some weight around.
I'll say
He was at the All-Star game. He was the one that didn't
He was
belong.
at the All-Star game, but I still think he deserved to be in the conversation to make it, even if there was no fan.
Tyler Ennis should have been Buffalo's representative without a doubt.
Okay. All right. I maybe agree with that because
yeah.
Ennis was phenomenal last year.
Ennis was good
no
last
one
year
to pass
on a horrible team.
He had no one to pass to, really.
Yes.
Well, Molson. But
Yeah. But again,
Molson
Ennis should
also-
have been your representative.
Molson should never be on a line with Tyler Ennis, I don't think, because Ennis, I think, should be
No.
guys
Ennis
with
should
guys that are
be-
great skaters.
Yeah,
and
Ennis should
Molson's
be with
not.
a guy who can keep up with him.
That's why I think he fits perfectly with O'Reilly and Kane, because neither one of those guys are guys that want to control the puck and set up.
And Tyler Ennis
Those
is
are
the
guys.
water bug.
Yeah, both those guys are going to go hard to the net. They've got great shots. They're always in the right areas. So Ennis can carry the puck in. He can have it as much as he wants,
He can
and
run
he's going to
around
have
with it, and he's got two guys floating to the open spot.
like you basically just told like Ennis is Peyton Manning, and you just threw out Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker. Like you just gave him two great receivers. Before he's got like
Two big good receivers.
yeah, big ones too. And he doesn't have to play center anymore, so he doesn't have as much responsibility on the defensive end.
Yep.
So I wrote about a long time ago. Not a long time ago, like October.
A decent time ago.
I think Ennis has the potential that he could be as good as Patrick Kane, which people are gonna sniff at.
that's a
Because that's a high standard.
That's a ceiling.
I
That's
think
a
he
ceiling
has
if I've ever seen.
he has the ability though, because his puck handling skills are incredible. He has a very good shot, not nearly on the level as Kane's. That's where I would give Kane a huge advantage over him.
Oh yeah.
But his skating is on par with Kane, and his stick handling is close.
His stick handling is nice. It's fun to watch him.
And he's not afraid to go into the corners and play physical either. Like he's 5'8", but he'll hit you hard.
Yeah.
He fought Alex Steen last year.
Yeah.
Like he's not afraid to drop the gloves.
Yeah, and I'm gonna bring this up. I mean, you've said some outlandish things in the past, but
Yes.
and I would stop you if that was outlandish. It's not.
It's bold.
It's bold, but it's not outlandish.
I think it can happen.
It's not.
If he's playing on a line in the future, like he's got Jack Eichel with him, he can definitely be an elite player in this league. I think. I mean, his size I think would maybe limit him from that, but puck handling skills, offensively, he to me has every ability that a great player needs.
Yes, and he's a very undervalued player because of the fact he's played on some awful teams.
Like some people talked about trading him, and I just don't want any
No.
part of it. He's an untouchable in my opinion.
I wouldn't say untouchable, but you got to pay up. You got to pay up for Tyler Ennis.
Are we at the point, or we just don't want to trade anyone else?
Yeah, I'm done.
It's hard. It's hard. Yeah, like it's.
I'm just
I
about
think
done.
we've had enough of trading because like it's.
I mean, while
Who else do we
Lipa
want to
has,
trade?
While Lipa has a very good point about trying to trade, if a guy like Brent Seabrook is available on the market, yeah, every team in the league should be going after that trade. But you know, it's
like
this,
Dion Phaneuf or Brent Seabrook.
Okay,
I
Dion
don't-
Phaneuf, blech.
But like, there's no one on this team that I want to trade that has significant value.
And I don't want to be trading certain prospects. I mean, after what I saw on Friday, I don't want Carrier or Fashing leaving
Or
this
Bailey.
team. Bailey especially.
Yeah.
I mean,
By the way,
and
some other. I want to talk. There's some guys that just don't get shine at this camp. By the way, Chapman,
he became a
Nuts.
fan favorite. He
who was getting chance at the end. We want Chapman because they wanted him in the shootout.
They wanted him in the shootout because in a prospects game, you don't expect a fight to break out.
It happened last year too, though.
It did.
Justin Kea fought
Kea.
Anthony Florentino.
So Justin Kea just
Justin
likes
Kea
to
is just a
punch
goon.
people in the face.
By the
okay.
way, Kea, I've always been a little high on since we drafted him. I always thought he could kind of be like a fourth line, like Paul Gossett type player. And
He's
last
punching
year
people in
he
the face
kind
like
of last year I was concerned because it seemed like he was taking more of like a goon role. Like even in ECHL, he had 7 goals the whole season, and he had a lot of penalty minutes. So maybe I'm like, oh, maybe he's trying to make the team as a goon. You watched him over this last developmental camp. He had
Definitely
good.
much better
Oh my
player
gosh, he was
overall.
not a goon. Skating is actually pretty good for his size. His hands aren't terrific, but he's got a decent shot, and he always drives the net hard.
Yeah. So you might see that progression coming back there as a fourth line role kind of player. And you can definitely see he is not scared to stand up for someone. And for the Sabres, you need to make sure you have someone like that, especially with the players that are coming up through the system.
Josh Chapman, by the way, was the camp invitee that a lot of people were wondering about and basically became a fan favorite.
Josh Chapman was
just finished up with the Sarnia Sting. Not an offensive player whatsoever. Last year he had 44 games played, 8 assists.
Honestly,
so he's a
first day of dev camp. I thought this kid was over his head.
Very physical player. He's 6'4", 6'4", 215 pounds at the age of 20.
Yeah.
After that camp, I could see him getting like an AHL contract.
Yeah, give him an AHL contract because he did kind of prove it to you that he's willing to hit whatever moves, and he's a very physical player. Why not give him an AHL contract? What do you got to lose there?
Yeah, other guys that a lot of people didn't really bring up: Dan Catanacci, who former third-round pick, 2013, I believe, played with the Amerks last year. Smaller player, skating was pretty nice. Didn't really. I thought he expected more stick-handling-wise.
I still didn't really think I was all that impressed with Catanacci, honestly.
I thought he played okay. I wouldn't count him out yet. Like there's a lot of third-round picks like Jerome Gauthier-Leduc and Kevin Sunder who've kind of just fallen off the boat.
I was surprised
I think Catanacci still got a chance.
I don't know why Catanacci was even brought to dev camp, honestly.
He's still young enough. Or 22?
Yeah.
Well, Makarov was there too.
Yeah, like Catanacci was a head scratch to me. I didn't know why he was invited.
Well, Brady Austin's also 22 and he was there.
Yeah.
So maybe 22 is the cutoff line.
Maybe okay. I know.
I know what it is. It's I think it's 22 and under, but you also have to have there's a limit of how many pro games you could play.
Pro games
that counts
okay.
AHL.
Okay.
Brady Austin, by the way, is another guy. I don't really think he's that good, honestly.
No, I'm not looking
kind of
forward.
goony.
Yeah.
Trying to think who was the other guy I was impressed with.
I liked Olofsson's game actually.
Olofsson, I really
Victor
like as a
Olofsson.
7th round pick. He's kind of small though.
Yeah.
Well, he's kind of small. He's 5'7".
He did have a nice shot though to him.
Yep.
A couple times he was robbed by Kasdorf.
Really good hands.
Yeah, and
Kasdorf was robbing everyone.
Kasdorf was robbing everyone, but like there was a couple times where he had quality chances on Kasdorf. Kasdorf shut him down. He scored the first goal for Gold in that penalty shot against Johansson.
He scored in the 3-on-3 tournament. He was Gray team's best player by far, and that was a team that had it was Victor Olofsson, Anthony Florentino, and one of the second-round picks. I don't remember which one. I think it was Cornell. He was the best of those guys.
Yeah.
Another guy, by the way, very not impressed with, Devontae Stevens, 5th-round pick this year. Literally thought he could not skate.
Oh, boy.
Like, he was falling down. He probably fell down a dozen times that I saw.
Really?
Like, not a good skater, in my opinion. Tall, lengthy guy. Looks like a project. He was a 5th-round pick this year. Goaltender-wise, Johansson. Everyone's big, except for Cal Peterson, who's still 6'1". Like, that's the smallest goalie right now.
That's the smallest goalie when he's 6'1". That's pretty good.
Yeah, Kasdorf was, as we brought up before, was astounding.
Phenomenal.
Camp invitee. I don't know if he counted as a camp invitee. Matt Garbowski, who played for the Amerks last year, graduated from RIT, was a Hobie Baker Award finalist. He had a really good week, I think. Not a great week.
Yeah.
But I mean, for what you expected.
He flashed a couple times on Friday as well during the scrimmage. He had a couple of flashes when Gold started to finally get some momentum late. But it's good to see though these kinds of players try to rise to the occasion. And like you said, there were other players that didn't get the hype that they should have. But every time I think about that scrimmage though, all I'm going to think about is how Carrier, Fashing, and Reinhardt just took everyone else to town.
By the way, Friday, that fight between Kea and Chapman, that would have been the best fight of the year in the NHL.
They were trading bombs.
Yeah.
Bombs. Just all over the place. Just huge punches. And kudos to the refs for letting it go. I'm very surprised that they did.
And as we kind of get closer to a wrap-up here, there was a lot of players in interviews that said they want to make this team in fall. 2 of them being Nick Baptiste, Justin Bailey. If you had to pick one of those two to play in the NHL this year at some point, who would it be?
I'm leaning toward Bailey, based on what I saw. And again, it's probably because of the fact that I think that he is tremendous amounts of skill for the size that he has. I feel like he's a little more balanced of a player, and I think he's a little more physical than Baptiste is. and more willing to hit. I mean, you saw it twice within the first minute. William Carrier put someone down 5 seconds into that scrimmage when people are asking each other, hey, is there going to be hitting in this scrimmage, or is it going to be like Edmonton's where McDavid scored 5 goals and nobody's touching each other?
Right.
But then Carrier blasts someone, and then right there, next shift, Bailey puts someone on the ground too. So I think that Bailey's willingness to hit is what gets him the call up.
Other guys, Ryan Verbeek from the Kingston Frontenacs, really good hands. Definitely a project. I don't even believe he was drafted by the Sabres. As Brayton mentioned earlier, Alex Belanger and Austin Lotz, 2 goalies invitees. They played pretty well. So many goalies in the system,
I felt bad
though.
for Lotz in the third period because
it's getting
that was
roasted.
when that Reinhart line was just going absolutely nuts, and he had 2 diving attempts at goals that he had no chance on. Like none of the goalies would have stopped whatever was coming from that line at that point.
Trying to remember. Andrew Paczarowski, I believe his name was.
Okay.
From Buffalo, plays at New Hampshire. He looked pretty good to me. He scored in the
he scored.
prospects game.
Yep.
He looked really good in the 3-on-3 tournament too.
And
He's
Grabowski
a long ways
got him
away.
a nice pass too for that goal.
And then Evan Rodriguez, who we talked about, who is a guy I think will play in the NHL this year.
I felt a little bad for Rodriguez, honestly. He had a rough go of it on that Friday during that scrimmage, and then that shootout goal was fantastic. And then after that, he, like you said, played very well during the 3-on-3 tourney.
And then 2 guys that were not at the tournament or at the camp that I don't want people to forget about because they're both, I think, really good prospects in the system. Linus Ullmark, goalie, had surgery on both hips. That's why he was not there.
Hopefully he's better.
He is marked for Rochester or Elmira this year, either ECHL or AHL.
He's got to get used to the North American rinks.
Depends on how Makarov looks. Depends on how healthy Lewin is. Depends.
Lewin
a lot
looks
of
like
stuff.
he's not in the plans going forward. He was given
well,
an AHL
they did
deal.
tender him a contract.
Oh, I thought they just gave him an AHL deal.
No, they gave him a 2-way.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's probably just a wait and see how his health comes
is
up.
going.
And the other guy is Sean Malone, who was a 6th-round pick in 2013 from Buffalo, goes to Harvard. He's really become a better thought of prospect over the past couple of years. He's played really well in college, much more developed than he was when we drafted him. He was also injured. I bet you, makes Team USA for the World Juniors this year.
Really?
I really think he's come
Okay.
along that far.
All right, so that's a name to look out for if you're a fan of USA hockey.
Yeah, look out for Sean Malone. I mean, other than that, we pretty much covered everybody.
And that's
Anthony Florentino.
Yep.
Pretty good. The defense looks kind of thin.
The
like
defense looks
deep,
thin
like
prospect-wise, and I liked Gile.
Yep.
I thought he was
He's
pretty
a monster athlete.
I thought he was pretty smooth of a skater. Other than that, though, none of them really shined to me. And it's kind of hard when McCabe's skating everywhere as a defenseman, and you can tell him apart from everyone else. So that was a bit of an issue. But I had imagined that with the amount of depth that they have with forward prospects, they trade for a defensive prospect or 2 down the line here.
Yep. And Grabowski, by the way, is on an AHL contract, so could always call him up, I guess. Jack Nevins is the other guy that was not there. He's the goon that we got for Torrey Mitchell.
Yeah, Jack Nevins is not a guy that is in the Sabres plans going forward. We know this.
All right, so that's going to about do it for us here on Neutral Ice. Any last thoughts, Derek?
Well, I think that, watching that tournament, watching that prospects game all roll out here for the Buffalo Sabres, the attendance that they had, it makes it seem like
we're hockey
a new era.
And we're hockey town. And people have bought into the future, too. That's another thing that it says.
Yes. And that it was almost unprecedented throughout the entire year, and now the payoff is coming.
And next year, you're going to see probably half that crowd, unless... well, actually, Eichel would still be in it. No, he would probably pass
he'd probably pass
pro
the
games.
pro game
unless they win the lottery and get Austin Matthews.
I'm not banking on it. I'm a fan of the numbers. That's why we were all embracing Eichel instead of McDavid, remember?
That's true. Well, then we can embrace Jakob Chychrun.
Sure.
Or Sean Day. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Neutral Ice. For Joe DiBiase, for Derek Kramer. What?
Did you just for yourself?
Whatever.
For Brayton Wilson and Nick Lippa, who called in as well.
This is Neutral Ice. You're listening to 91.3 FM WBNY Buffalo, Buffalo's Orange Alternative since 1982. We'll be back next Monday. You can check out us on YouTube, as well as our blog at neutralice.sportsblog.com. Thanks for listening.